So I made the switch from Windows. In my case, it was from Windows 10 to Linux, which was Linux Mint. And I don't know, I was just thinking that it could be fun to share my experience so far with the new OS. Um, my plan is not to advertise for Linux. Like, if someone makes the switch because of me, great. If no one does, also great, because that was not the intention. I will also not be advertising for any distribution because I only tested Mint and I gave a quick look at Ubuntu, so I'm not the best person to talk about them. Um, so yeah, the first thing I would like to talk about is the reason why I changed from one OS to another, which was because I am very stubborn. Right now, I'm seeing like a lot of videos popping up on YouTube about people that also changed from one system to another, and most of the videos I see is because of Copilot, the AI and the AI stuff that Microsoft is pushing on their products. And to be honest, that don't bother me that much. If the AI is something that will make the product better, go for it. Um, I don't really have a problem with that. I believe the AI stuff will be the new metaverse. Like a couple years ago, we had a bunch of companies saying that they were on the metaverse, to the point that like I saw a gas station advertising that they were on the metaverse just to try to be cooler and sell more. So I genuinely think that the AI stuff is just the new metaverse. A bunch of companies are just gonna forget about it in a couple years. Some will still try to push it, which I believe is the case for Windows. Um, but at the end, I think like Copilot will have the same fate as Cortana, um, which is like I may be in a bubble, but for everyone I know, the people that don't know about Cortana just don't use it. And the people that know about Cortana just straight up disable her. So I think Copilot will have the same fate. Um, most people will not disable it, but because they don't know it exists, so they won't even use it. And the people that know will go to the settings and disable it. So that don't bother me much. Recall, on the other hand, being a function of Copilot, um, is something that I thought about it just a little bit, um, but not because like I'm not gonna be sensationalist here. Like some people I saw like saying, "Ooh, Recall is gonna steal all your data. Be careful." I'm not gonna talk about it. But what made me think about Recall is that most of what they advertise, you can do it with the history function of any browser. So it's just another thing that they put it in the OS just to have more things in the OS, which will lead us to the next topic, which is bloat. So bloat and bloatware um, which have become one of my favorite words, right by the side of buddy, mate, and Paul. Um, bloat is having stuff just for the sake of having stuff until you have too much stuff. And I saw that that was um, one of the reasons that a lot of people were migrating from Windows. They don't want to have to uninstall every piece of software that comes pre-installed with Windows. And I get that. That's something that bothers me um, more than the Copilot thing, because I have to take a while uninstalling every software that I want to use, and I have to do it one by one. If you have one machine, it's not a big of a problem, but if you have multiple, then like in a workspace, you can easily take like an entire day just uninstalling stuff. And I remember that in a job um, I had like some um, spare time, and I just hit the Windows key and started uninstalling a bunch of software that no one used, like Spotify and Skype and Candy Crush. Um, and my boss saw it. He saw what I was doing, and when I explained it to him, he asked me to do the same for every machine they had, which was, I believe it was 5 computers. And there was also another computer for a person that worked from home from another town. So I also had to explain to them how to do it. Um, and that, like, I think that took half of my turn. Um, so if you have like just one machine, it's not a big of a problem, but for multiple, yeah, it can take a lot of time. But that's not the main reason that made me switch. And the main reason is that Windows 10 would should be the last one. Yes, I am very stubborn. I'm that stubborn. They said Windows 10 would be the last one, and it will be the last one. I don't care if they um, throw Windows 11 crash, they come like Windows 12, which would be this great OS, like the best system someone could ever come up with. I don't care about it. Windows 10 would be the last, and it will be the last. And that's the reason why I made the switch. Because I am very, very stubborn. um, so the first things that I changed were actually the softwares. I didn't change it like everything at the same time, and I wouldn't advise anyone to do that. So for software, I had 3 options. I could pay for everything that I used, which would get pretty expensive, um, or I could pirate it. And I would have to, instead of wasting money, I would have to waste time, because I would have to search for um, a version that I felt that it was safe enough, and I would also have to learn how to install the program, because every program will have a different way of activating it. So it's not like they can have similarities between them, but if you get in architecture software, it will made by like one company, it will probably have a different activation process. And let's say a music producing software made by a completely different company. So I would have to waste time learning how to activate the software, like where to click, what to do. And the third option was to migrate to open source or at least free stuff, which is the option that I chose. Um, I don't really remember which one was the first, but I believe it to be Office. So I changed from Microsoft Office to LibreOffice. And don't, I didn't really saw any difference. There was like some formatting problems, like if uh, when I was transitioning from one software to another, I still had files that were made using Microsoft Office, and I had to continue the work on those files using LibreOffice. So I had to export it from one program to another. And I remember having some formatting issues, but nothing that was like that big of a problem. Um, it was more like some systems that worked differently from one program to another. Like I remember right now the um, summary um, function um, that worked really different in Microsoft Office and in LibreOffice, and that totally broke when I exported from one software to the other. So I had to learn how to do that. And all the other things like font style and font sizes, it was just literally clicking a button. So I really didn't see any difference between those two. One program that I had a lot of problem was GIMP. So I tried to switch from Photoshop to GIMP, which is the one that I currently using, and I just couldn't do it. Like every time I try to use GIMP, I would get frustrated and I would go back to Photoshop. And I did that a lot of times until I just gave up and I forced myself to use GIMP without having Photoshop even installed in my PC anymore. Um, and right now it's working. Like everything on this channel was made using GIMP. Um, like the thumbnails was using GIMP. I did some of the editing um, on the anime stuff also using GIMP. Um, and it's working. There is some things that still bother me, like the you can't move layers uh, that easily like you do in Photoshop. Like on Photoshop, I can link one layer to another, and when I move it on the canvas, every layer that I linked together will move together. The same happens on GIMP. I can like link multiple layers, and when I move one, all the linked ones will move together. But the thing is that in Photoshop, I could have multiple links set up. While on GIMP, I can only have one set of links. Like if let's say I have 5 layers and I want to move the top 3 together, I have to link those 3 and move it. But now let's say I want to move the bottom 2 together. I have to unlink the top 3 and link the bottom 2, and then I can move them. There is probably a way of having multiple links, but I still didn't figure it out yet. Sorry for that. Um, so yeah, it's working. Um, there is like these things that bothers me, but it's not that much. Um, Another thing that I would like to go through is that I had some misconceptions, and looking through some comments on YouTube videos, I see that a lot of people have those misconceptions. Like for me, it was that I thought that Linux was for programmers or people that knew how to code stuff, and I couldn't be more wrong about it. Maybe there is like a distro that allows you to customize everything on it, like a uh, built yourself distro, like Arch, um, that you need to read the manual to be able to even install it. But like for Ubuntu and like Linux Mint, I don't feel like that's uh, true. Like you can just have the installation file, click next, 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 and install it. So it's easy to install the OS, and it's also easy to use it. Um, like you don't, if you want to, you don't even need to touch the terminal. Um, like you can totally use the OS just with the graphical interface, which is what I'm currently doing. I searched about it, about the terminal a little bit. I learned how to do some stuff, but um, it's not the main way that I manage my files. I go to the graphical interface. It works. Oh, I have like a, I have some comments that I gathered. So this first one says that, quote, Windows is better for gaming and is slightly easier for use for average PC user who only uses internet and pay bills through the computer, unquote. Um, and that's I'm not gonna blame the person that wrote this because I used to think just like that. I used to think that you needed to know something to be able to use Linux, and like I couldn't be more wrong about it, as I said. Talking about this comment specific, the gaming part I'll leave it for later. But he says that it is slightly easier to use for the average PC user that will only browse internet and pay bills. Like you can do that um, very easily in any operation operation operating system. Um, like you go to Mint, it already has a pre-installed browser, which is Firefox. You go to Ubuntu and also have a pre-installed browser. You just open and it's ready to use. Um, and if you use your bank account through the web browser, there is also no difference. If you need to use a specific software, you may have a problem with that. But since like most people that are close to me use their bank accounts through their cell phones and not through their computers, that won't be a problem. Um, I don't know. I just don't feel like that's true at all. That is another comment that I gathered, which is quote, let's let's say Windows is for the average consumer, while Linux is not for consumers rather than developer needs. Um, what he's saying is that the average person will have a lot of trouble trying to adapt themselves to Linux, and that Linux is more like for developer needs. And as I said before, I don't feel like that's true. You can, I don't have any knowledge on programming or coding. That's probably something that I should change, but I don't have any knowledge in those areas. Um, I know how to search for stuff, so at least that. Like if I have a program, I know how to look through the crash logs to see if I could find a uh, error code, and then I know how to search uh, on the internet about that error code, so I can find a solution. So I can say I can do that, but developing and programming, I have no clue even on how to start it. And like Mint is don't require that, and like Ubuntu also don't require that. But there is distributions that you can use. So yeah, he continues his comment. Quote, um, and for consumers, but they are very old because they have to read a book and then install the OS. So it's easy for them. Unquote. Um, I don't really know what he meant by that. I assume that by reading book he is talking about the loving manual. Um, but as I said, there is operational systems. There is distributions that you don't have to do that. Like Mint is one of them. You just click next, next, and install, and you are good to go. And like um, Arch, which is like fully customizable distribution that you will have to read the loving manual. Um, I think that they made a default installation. Like I'm not sure about it, but I remember seeing somewhere that now you can install Arch Linux. Um, just like Ubuntu, you can click next, next, and install. You will have like the a default uh, environment and default programs that come with that distribution. So like you will be trading the customization of the system um, for like an easier to install system. So even the part of reading manual is not really true anymore. Um, so yeah, I don't think like for the average user it will be a problem. It will be a problem when you get too specific. So going back to the first comment, he says that Windows is better for gaming because gaming is more specific stuff that you want to do with the computer. And it will get even more specific if you want to play a specific game. But let's go to another area. So let's say you... Oh, sorry for that. You heard that sound of me hitting the microphone. So let's say you work engineering company. The only company that made software for engineers, or like not the only but the biggest one, is Autodesk. Autodesk only provides support for Windows. So if you work on construction, you will have a problem with Linux because it's a specific job and you need specific software for that. Or let's say if you work with music production, if you create music, you will also need specific programs that may not work on Linux. So the same goes for gaming. It's a specific task. You get more trouble the more specific you get. But for gaming, I don't even think that's true anymore. Again, if you want to play a specific game, yeah, that will be a problem. Like, if you want to play, I don't know, Valorant, because Valorant is what your friends play. That will probably not work on Linux systems. But if you're not, how's it called? If you don't matter that much about what you're playing, as long as it's a shooter, you won't have that much of a problem. So I started testing some of my games. I didn't test all of them because I don't install all of my games at once. So I install a game, play that for like 2 months, uninstall it, and install something else. So I'm testing my games little by little. And the ones I tested so far were Payday 2, Fate, Extella Link, Project Wingman, and Monster Hunter Rise. Out of those four, only Monster Hunter I had a problem with. So let's go from the easier one, which was Fate. Fate, I just installed it. I didn't have to do anything else. I opened Steam, I installed the game, and it ran it perfectly. I didn't have any problem with it. So I didn't even had to change the Proton setting. And the same goes to Project Wingman, which is this flight combat game, like Ace Combat. I still need to test that one a little bit better, but the stage I tested, the stage I played, worked perfectly. I installed the game, I opened it, and it was running fine. On Payday, I had a problem. I had two problems, actually. I tried to boot it through, I believe it was the standard Proton version, and I didn't get the multiplayer feature. So I booted the game. I could still play the offline version, but no multiplayer. So I went to the experimental version of Proton. So I just went to the settings and changed it from the standard to the experimental, and still nothing. And then I went to Proton GE. I don't remember what those letters mean, but it's the version of Proton that most people will recommend you. So I installed Proton GE, and I had multiplayer. So I could play with people playing on Linux and people playing on Windows without any problem. Um, so it was an easy fix. But as I said, I had two problems. The other one being the save files, because if I understood it correctly, Payday has a file for Windows and a file for Linux. Um, so like, if you go to the installation folder on Windows, it will have like save file underscore Windows 005. And if you go to the Linux installation, you have like save file underscore Linux 005. Um, when I booted the game, I was back at level 0. But then I went to a backup I had made of my save file, grabbed it, um, copied, pasted on the installation folder, and changed the name of the file. Just that. I grabbed the save file underscore Windows and renamed it to save file underscore Linux, and the game was able to read it, and I was back at the level I should be. So it was another easy fix. And then I tried Monster Hunter, which I had the problem of flickering assets. So I tried again the standard Proton version and the experimental version, and none of those worked. So I changed it to the GE version, and I was able to boot the game. But then I had flickering assets. Some assets in the game would just turn itself invisible and then visible again. Very rapidly. So that's the problem I currently have on that game. And I still didn't found a solution to it, because like going to the Proton website, ProtonDB, there is like 5 people with that same problem. So I don't know what happened. If it was like something on the installation, the solution, Linux I chose, like maybe it was the Proton GE version, so I have to test those things. So as I said, gaming is not a problem unless, as everything else, unless you go too specific. Like I want to play that specific game. Like I want to play Valorant and not any other shooter. I want to play, I don't know, Monster Hunter and not any other RPG game. I want to play Fate, not any other console game. Or if you want to play a specific game, maybe you will have some problems with it. Which is not my case. So right now, I don't really care if the games I already bought stop working. It's the case of Monster Hunter. I don't really care if I have to stop playing that. Like I'm gonna search for solutions for the problem I have, and if I don't find any solution, I'll just not play the game. Because because Capcom is the one that should be fixing it. Like Capcom is the one that wants my money, so they need to try to please me. So like this year they're gonna release Monster Hunter Wilds, which is a game that I was kinda interested in, but I don't know if I will play it. because for me to play it, they would have to do they would have to have Linux support for the game, which I don't think they will have. And I'll just not buy it because it isn't a big of a deal for me. I can just play something else. Um, the games I already bought, I'll just not play it. And for future games that I plan on buying, I'll just do some research and see if they run well on Linux or not. If they don't, I'll not buy it. If they do, I'll buy it. Um, yeah, I don't know if it was like easy to understand that, but yeah, I'm not just I'm just not very picky about what I want to play or not. So like um, let's say Valorant. Valorant won't run on Linux, but there is other shooters that I can play. So I'll just not play Valorant. I'll play any other game that already runs on Linux, or games that already have support on Linux, or that I have to do not much stuff to get it to work. So yeah, OBS Studio, which is another thing that I use quite often, also have a native support for Linux. So that's not a problem for me. So every add-on of the program also have a Linux version, which is great for me. Maybe sometime later I'll find an add-on that it's really cool, like it does something that I really wanted, and it won't have a Linux support, and I'll just have to not use that add-on, which again is not a big of a deal for me. I'll just look for something else. So yeah, there's not much to talk about OBS. They have native support, the add-ons have native support, so it's all great. I would also like to talk about the the stuff that is bothering me on Linux, the stuff that is like making me happy. So the last section of this video will be to that. So some people really dive into the customization of their system, but that's not really something that cares, if that's the word, cares to me. Like, I'm still using the default wallpaper on my system, and I don't think I even changed anything on it. Like, I know that I changed a setting that allows me to simulate the mouse middle click when I press the right button and the left button at the same time. But that customization was just turning a setting on, which is great to me because I don't feel very safe using the scroll wheel to do clicks. So I just turned that on. And even on Windows, my mouse have lateral buttons. I just remapped one of them to be my middle click, just so I didn't kept constantly pressing the wheel. So Linux have a feature, like Linux Mint, have a native feature for that, which is great for me. But that's like the only customization that I did. The volume bar is also great on that OS because On Windows, um, I have sensitive hearing. I don't know if that's a thing, but if it's not, now it is. So on Windows, I had a problem with my volume because every time it stayed at like level 10. And so let's say I was watching a YouTube video. I would keep the overall volume at like 10, and then the YouTube video will be really low, like the volume bar would be really low, and that would be comfortable enough for me. But then we would have a problem. Like if there was a loud noise on the video, I wouldn't have much room to adjust the volume settings because I was already at level 10. So there is not much I can lower the volume. While on Linux Mint, um, everything is a little bit louder. Uh, Not louder, a little bit silent. So I keep the volume louder. So let's say to watch the one video on YouTube, I had the volume at 10. On Linux Mint, I'll have the volume at 30. So now I have a little bit more room to adjust the volume. So let's say if the video get a lot silent, I would go on Windows from the volume level 10 to 20. And on Mint, I would go to like 30 to 50. And if the volume of the video went too loud, like on Windows, I wouldn't have much room to adjust that. I would go from level 10 to level 1, while on Mint, I would go from 30 to like 10. So I have more room to adjust the volume, which is great for me. This is probably something that is specific for Mint or like to Ubuntu. I don't know if that's something on other distributions, but yeah, it's something that made me quite happy, so I thought about commenting on it. Um, there is also a great thing, which is the one-click internet change. So on Linux, I had to go to, if I had two internet connections and I wanted to switch between them, I would have to go to the Wi-Fi settings, select the connection, and then click connect. On Linux means I need to go to the Wi-Fi settings, and if I click any connection, it will automatically connect. I don't need to click um, another time to say that I want to connect to it, which is something that I started to think that was quite strange on Windows after I started using Mint. Because like if I'm clicking on the internet connection is because I want to connect to it. You don't need to like you shouldn't need that middle click. Like clicking on the connection to show the connect option. That's quite strange. And it's something that I didn't thought about before migrating to another OS. um, the drawing tablets also are way easier to install on Linux. So I have a Wacom drawing tablet. And how does it work on Windows? So when I bought the tablet, I got the installation CD. So what I had to do was to insert the disk and then click next, next, install. The software would install the required drivers for the Wacom tablet to work, and then I would have to reboot the PC to be able to properly use the tablet. Sorry about that. Um, so we would have a problem right now because most computers don't have a disk entry anymore. So right now, if I had to install the Wacom tablet on a Windows system, I would have to go to the Wacom website, search for my tablet, download the drivers, um, open it, click next, next, install, and then reboot the PC, and I would be able to use the tablet. And then I would have to go to Windows settings, and I don't remember which one it is, if it's to um, turn on or to turn off the Windows ink, because that mess up with the pen pressure. So there is a lot of steps. So first I would have to have internet connection. So if I'm at the middle of nowhere and I wanted to draw something, I wouldn't be able to, because I would need to have internet connection to access the Wacom website and download the drivers. And I would also have to hope that the website um, was on, like was not down for maintenance or whatever reason, which happened quite often. There was sometimes that I really needed to install the tablet and the website would just be down to maintenance, and there would be nothing that I could do about it. And then there is the problem of having to reboot the system. On Linux, it's just plug and play. I can get my drawing tablet, I will plug it to the PC, it will automatically install any driver that you needed to, and I will be ready to use the tablet. I won't even have to reboot the system, and that's really great. Um, so yeah, I don't know if I had that couple years ago, um, it would have um, removed a lot of problems that I had with that tablet. Also, another great thing is that Linux don't have Xbox Game Bar, which is something that I have to uninstall it, but I can't uninstall everything of it. Like there is two things that come pre-installed, which is Xbox something and Xbox Game Bar. The Xbox Game Bar is the one that I can't um, uninstall, and it's a problem because every time I turn my controller on, the Xbox Game Bar shows up, and I have to click on the screen for it to disappear, or press the B button on the controller to close the Xbox Game Bar. On Linux, we don't have Xbox Game Bar, so it's like I can turn on my controller and um, nothing will pop up. I can just turn on and start playing the game. I know it's like a small stuff, but a small thing, but I don't know. It's like you put a lot of small things on top of each other, and they change the way you perceive the operating system. Like I am for the last 10 minutes talking about just small stuff that I've noticed on Meet. Oh yeah, um, there is some stuff that I still need to get used to, which is mostly the App Store, because I'm not used to having an App Store. I have it on, but well, it's on my phone. Different. um, my PC, I was going to the developer website and then downloading the software from them. I can still do that on Linux, but it's way easier to do that from the App Store, because I don't need to search, I don't need to open the browser, search for the software, look through the search results um, to see which one is the legit um, software that I need, um, and then download and install it. On the App Store, I just open the App Store, I search for the software, and it's there, the legit one. So I can just click a button and install it. Um, and also I don't need to open the terminal for doing that. If I go to the developer's website, I would have to copy a code and then paste it on the terminal, which is something that I should have talked about. But I don't know. I just didn't make any note about it. Like, the terminal is something that I was scared about. Um, but using Linux, I just realized that I don't need to use the terminal. I can just use the normal graphical interface. Um, I still went out of my way to try to learn some stuff, how to do some stuff on the terminal, mainly like creating folders and files and moving them, um, just to like have some idea of how it's done. But that's all I searched about, and I don't really use the terminal or anything. Like, there is some moments that I have to use the terminal, um, but it's not. I don't think it's not even 10% of the time I'm on the computer, like using the terminal. Um, so yeah, I think that's just one more thing that I um, have noted here, which is the resolution scale. I don't know why. I think this is like a neat problem. Um, so maybe other distributions don't have this, but Mint have a problem with multiple monitors. So if you have multiple monitors, the resolution between them will get a little bit strange. So like if you have multiple monitors and they have different sizes, the text won't scale very well between those monitors. Like, in one monitor, the text will be really small, and in the other will be really big. Um, so that's a problem that we saw on Mint. They have a solution for that, um, which is adaptive scaling. I think that's how it's called. Um, but it's not like default. You have to go to the settings and enable it, which is not that hard to do, but you still need to see that there is something wrong with the resolutions between the monitor and the search bar. Um, and it's also still in development, so I had some problems with it, like some performance issues when this adaptive scaling was on. Some of the programs I used started um, to become slower. There is problem. There is problem. Problem. There is probably a way to fix that, but I just didn't search it about it because the difference between um, the monitors is not that big enough to bother me. So I just am using the default settings. Um, yeah, I think there is much more to talk about. That was like my experience so far with um, with Linux. So I don't know. Maybe I'll come back to this video in a couple of years and see what changed, what stayed the same. If I'm still using the same operating system, which I don't think I will, but I don't know. Everything is working just fine on me, so maybe I'll stay in there. Um, so yeah, that's it.